BSU financial aid representative, to come and talk to you all in detail about that. Throughout this, I'm pretty laid back, so if you do have questions, throw them out. I'm happy to talk through those in a moment. Of course, at the end of the presentation, I'll also give you a second if you do have any additional questions, certainly. So to kick it off, regardless of where you're at in the process, if this is your first senior, if this is your fourth senior, if this is a senior past that, congratulations, I salute you. That's quite an achievement. But I hope that you learned something new. If not, I hope it's a refresher. And again, it's a chance to ask questions. I know oftentimes we all live pretty busy lives, and our seniors also have pretty busy schedules that oftentimes end up in, did you ask Mr. Will that? And it's like, oh, yeah, tomorrow, right? And tomorrow becomes the next day, and the next day, and so on and so forth. So I hope that we can utilize this as an opportunity for everyone to be able to speak their mind, ask questions, and get the answers that they may be curious about. But to start, again, starting from the top, on how do we choose college? There's so many options out there. I feel like seniors are constantly bombarded by colleges of, ooh, choose me, come here, things like that. I think the most important question that a senior should ask is, what's important to them? There's so many things to consider, especially here at Burris. I always love when the kids throw out, I want to go to IU. I'm like, that's great. Have you been to IU when it's in session, right? Have you seen how many students are walking around in that vicinity as opposed to Burris, right? Especially if they're K through 12er, they know everyone here, right? They've seen all these faces their whole lives, and they step into a situation where they may not see a single familiar face the entire time. Campus atmosphere, the location, the distance from home. Again, if this is the entire world of our senior, moving 3 hours away might not be that big of a deal, but it's still a big step, right? And it's a step that is sometimes not always the most familiar. Thinking about the student body makeup, whether you want to go to an HBC, right? Things like that. Always considering the options of that. And also coming down to extracurriculars. If you're involved in sports, you want to continue that, even if it's in an intramural way, right? All those things. I challenge your senior and you as parents to sit down and talk through those options, right? What is the most important thing for our students, and what's going to be the best choices? I have some resources. Again, I do plan on sending these slides to you all, so you'll be able to access these at any point. You can click on these pictures to actually pull them up. But comparing schools, right? Trying to figure out, again, what school is going to be better than the other. Obviously, university college web pages are easy to access. They have a ton of info, but sometimes that works against them, right? They have so much information, it's hard to sift through to figure out what is actually important, what am I looking for, right? So using these two websites, Indiana College Cost Estimator specifically looks at Indiana schools, but I personally really like this college scorecard, sorry. And I'd like to show you what that looks like after we kind of talk through the rest of these, because it's a pretty cool tool that gives you quick access at fingertips to see the important information from schools and do side-by-side comparisons of I'm trying to talk too fast. Colleges throughout the entire country. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. Of course, books, catalogs, files in the Counseling Center. Just as seniors are bombarded with that information, colleges are constantly sending us in the Counseling Center up-to-date information about their schools, things that they would like us to hand out to students. However, it's not always easy to figure out, oh, this obscure college in Northern Oregon has reached out to Burris. Maybe that is in line with your students' interest. We might not know that initially, so always encourage your seniors to swing by the Counseling Center. If we have opportunities for these resources, we can certainly pass those out. College fairs, there hasn't been one as of late. However, I'm actively searching for one. I think they're an awesome opportunity to talk with the representatives from these schools, see further down in the information of what is actually being offered there. Again, of course, their website has that information. However, it can be quite overwhelming to try to sift through. And then these internet sources, which I'd like to show you real quick. The college scorecard. I'm going to add Ball State to our search, just so you can see. And in a quick glance, it of course gives you important info. If we blow it up, we are able to see further information on location, costs. You can eventually break it down to see earnings, student body. Again, pretty interesting things that are right at the whim, and it also allows you to compare schools pretty quickly. So if we were looking at University of Southern Indiana versus IU Bloomington, again, being able to compare it side by side just gives you a little bit more understanding of what these schools are, and a convenient place that holds all that information together for you. So I encourage you to utilize that. Again, I will be sending this out to you all, so you'll be able to access it by just clicking on that picture. It'll take you directly to the website. Similarly, if your student is still unsure, if they have no idea what they think they want to go to college for, but they know they want to go to college, there's tons of online resources that are free and available to your student. I'm happy to help walk them through that if they would like that guidance. However, you can do it with your student at home. Whether it is ONET, whether it's mynextmove.org, there's tons of interest inventories, the word slipped me, and kind of career inventories that you can take that give you an idea of your strengths. Also, these websites break it down further, talk about earnings, talk about the career credentials that you need, all of that sort. So they're pretty cool resources as well. I highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Another thing that I think seniors sometimes forget is that you can actually be excused up to 3 excused absences senior year to go on a college visit. Just swing by the counseling center. I can hand you a form that you have to sign and turn into the office that basically just states, I'm going to IU, I'm going to Purdue, I'm going to any college that is of choice. Note that it also is career exploration. If you have a chance to shadow someone and you're not already doing that, there's an opportunity of internship or independent study. Certainly, come and talk to me about it. I want you to have that experience. I want you to be able to see what's up out in the world. So do take advantage of those. Far too often, people wait until late spring. I encourage you to start your visits early, right? Everyone's in session. Go check it out. The fall weather's starting to change. Some of these campuses are absolutely beautiful, and I would really encourage you to take a glance. Maybe go once in the fall and go in the spring, right? Just for a confirmation that it's where you want to go. When you do go, I do encourage you to pay attention to at least a few places, right? Obviously, the admissions office, you're most likely going to end up there anyway at a visit. But think about your department of interest. If you want to study psychology, see if you can go and talk to any professors that are in the psychology program. If you're thinking about scholarships, swing by the financial aid office, right? All these places should have some sort of, I don't want to say swag, but pretty much, right? Something to give you as a visiting student, so I would take full advantage of that. I'd also ask to sit in on a class. Again, I think a class at IU is going to look a bit different than a class here at Ball State, which is going to look even more different if you go to DePaul, right? All three would give different opportunities, and I think it's important to kind of see what it's like, being that Burris is such small class sizes. Sometimes it's quite eye-opening to see a lecture hall full of who knows how many kids. I also advise to try to swing it on a Friday or Monday. One, because it's a 3-day weekend. But two, because you'll be able to see some possible nightlife on the campus, actually be able to stay the night, right? See what the town is like, where the campus is located. It's all a giant community, and if you're going to be there for 2, 4, possibly longer years, I think it's important to see what it's actually like there outside of the college. As we all know, Muncie is more than Ball State. You just have to give it a chance, right? You have to see what's actually out there rather than just staying confined to campus. So after you figure out, yes, I think this is a school that I'm interested in, this is totally what I want to do, we move on to applying. The most important thing about applying is to just be aware of deadlines, right? There are so many different schools out there that might have different deadlines, so I encourage you, if you have an option, Mark down those deadlines so that way you don't miss them, because most schools can be unforgiving with that. Aiming to apply to 3 to 5 schools, right? Burris, we're awesome students. All of your students are quite accomplished. I have no doubts that they're going to get into the schools that they choose. However, I think it always serves well to have options, right? Instead of forcing ourselves into a choice. Like I had mentioned, there are different types of admissions, so be sure to go to that school's individual website to make sure that you are finding the right info in terms of the dates and deadlines. And then talking about applications. I've had a lot of students and even some parents contact me in regards to test scores this year already. Several schools are test optional at this point, meaning that the test scores are not considered as part of that application criteria. And they're not sure. Do I submit my test score? Do I not submit my test score? I'm always happy to have that conversation. Obviously, it might be individual based on the college, based on the student's test score. But if they're test optional and you are stressed that much about it, I would say leave it off because it's test optional for a reason, right? Do pay attention though. Some schools are test flexible. That is a different option. Test flexible may require you to submit AP scores, or again, SAT, ACT scores. However, they are different. Don't just dismiss it and say, oh, it says test something and think you don't have to. Sometimes they try to catch you. And also keep in mind, Purdue, I know, is one of the schools. They're actually going back to requiring test scores. Keep in mind the SAT school day, which all of your seniors have participated in. They do have at least one SAT score that they can utilize. If you are a senior or a parent who thinks maybe my child should test again, you have options. You have plenty of time throughout this year to do that. I'm always happy to talk about those test dates as well. Keep in mind it will be a Saturday though. And I'd also like to draw attention to recommendations. I'm going to talk a bit about it, a few slides about the senior profile. Most schools don't really require recommendations in terms of their admissions profiles anymore. However, if you are applying to a school and you find a cool program that you'd like to join, potentially scholarship opportunities and those sorts, they may ask for a letter of recommendation. I know several of us may have already had letters written for the Lilly Scholarship. However, if you do not have a letter of recommendation, there is a process, right? And I think we need to make sure that we're giving any teachers, counselors, or community members time to write those letters. I know sometimes students will drop it on individuals that say, hey, can you write this letter? It's due by midnight, right? There is a process with that, so I would strongly encourage you to fill out the senior profile, which again, I will talk about in a minute. Most all colleges do things online now. Oh, yes.
Transcripts.
Yes.
They just email you and ask you for them? Are you just sending them out? How is that?
Transcripts are available through Parchment. I forgot to add a slide to this about Parchment, but I can send out an email to us all with instructions on how to create an account. Students can use Parchment senior year. It is free. You can order that through Parchment to your own email if you would like a copy of that for yourself. And then you also can send it to pretty much any university or college. The reason why we use Parchment is it is a confidential way to send that. It goes directly from Burris to the school, rather than making sure that there's no in-between people that could possibly see that data. There is some sensitive information on transcripts, so we utilize that to make sure that it is confidential. Thank you for that. I will make that note though and send that out to you all. All students have their transcripts uploaded, so when you submit that process, it essentially just sends me a letter that says this student needs to send their transcript, and then I can upload it, verify it, and then send that again to them. As I was saying though, online applications, most schools are online now. A few of them, I'm sure, still do the paper copies, but it's just way more convenient. Parents, if they weren't online in your time, it is way easier. It's so much faster. You get instant responses, it feels like, at least in terms of that things have been submitted and received. Recommendations are one of the only things that usually come separately. And again, I think some students may have familiarity with this in regards to the lily, in which you usually put in an email of someone who is going to write that letter, and it directly sends them a link to fill out that letter of recommendation. So again, it is confidential in that way. But I would highly recommend just popping onto their website, and it is pretty straightforward from there. Most colleges want you to apply. So this week is College Go Week. I haven't seen any senior yet. I sent another reminder in Canvas today. I'm in the auditorium all day during Parliament. What College Go Week is, if you're unaware, is really a push to have students start to apply to those universities. So this year I have the schools listed in terms of, on the far left side here, it is schools that are only waiving their fees for this week, whereas this side is the colleges that are waiving their fees throughout the entire year. There is some noticeable colleges left off. IU, main campus, Purdue, main campus, right? Those big schools, I'm not quite sure why they haven't waived their application fees. However, I encourage your seniors to take advantage of this. At least pick one of these schools and toss out an application. If they have any questions, like I said, I am available during Parliament in the auditorium. Swing by, I'm happy to help out and talk about this. Another thing that I'd like to bring up that sometimes people are not aware of is the Indiana-Ohio Reciprocity Agreement. So several schools in Ohio will actually grant us in-state tuition. It is an agreement that's lasting until 2023 right now. They did redo it. There was a prior version, and they kind of updated it as they continue moving forward. I'm not sure, to be transparent, about the kind of rules that would change if for any reason one of the schools you would choose seems to opt out. I don't know if it would be grandfathered through or anything like that, so it may be a risk. However, if you are interested in heading out of state, but you do want a little break on that tuition, I would encourage you to check this out. Again, you can click this picture and it will take you to basically an article that explains how that works. Again, I mentioned the senior profile. You can access it by scanning that QR code. Essentially, it's just answering questions about what your involvement has been throughout the last 4 years here at Burris. It's a convenient way that stores all the information. We use it for our scholarship committee to make sure that we're aligning the opportunities with the individuals who are best fit for that. But we can also use it as a way to, again, have a letter writer complete the most well-rounded recommendation that they can. It is turned in via Google Docs. It's a convenient way for me to store all that info and then update it as we go throughout the year. If your senior has already turned it in and things need to change, just have them swing by the counseling center, and I'm happy to help update that on the back end. If any of you are athletes and plan on playing in college, this is a pretty important piece. You actually have to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center this year if you plan to play. So if that is even on the horizon, I would encourage you to go ahead and start that process. It's pretty straightforward. You really just need to register and get your name on the map of the NCAA. Same goes for NAIA if the school is in a different conference type like that. However, if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. It's a pretty straightforward process, and our elementary counselor, Ms. Harnish, was a former college athlete, so she's also happy to walk through this process for anyone who would be a bit confused about it. So for paying for college, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Thornburg just to make sure that it can be pretty in-depth for you all. And then I will pop back up to review, a quick review, and then finish up. So I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. My name is Greg. I'm at Ball State. I've been here a couple of years now. And it's my pleasure to be back in Indiana. I grew up in Randolph County and then moved to the South for 35 years. So you still hear a little bit of a Southern accent. You'll just have to bear with me on that. A couple of my colleagues are with me here this evening also. Trinity Seaton is in the back. Trinity snuck in here a couple minutes late. I said, yeah, that'd be fine. And Bethany Allen is down in front. And they're both brand new employees at Ball State. Well, not brand new, Ball State, the brand new, and what we're going to call Cardinal Central. We have a new one-stop department that's going to open up. We're having a virtual opening here in a couple of weeks, so they'll be working with financial aid students, and students have registration needs, students, families paying their bills. These two ladies are going to be in a group where all that's handled out of one office, and we're pretty excited about that happening. How many of the seniors, you're thinking about going out of state? Thinking about going out of state? Okay, all right. How many are thinking of going at least 100 miles away? Okay, all right. How about some thinking about staying here in Muncie? Okay, we like those. Well, actually, we like all of them. I do want to, seniors, if you're planning on going maybe 100 to 150 miles away, you need to be real careful. Make sure you still have dibs on your bedroom at your house. Okay? Some of those bedrooms for students to go to Illinois or to Kentucky, that bedroom may become a workout room. It may become an office. If you've got a sibling younger, they may grab your room. So just make sure you got dibs on your bedroom before you leave town. That's just, I've had 2 sons go off to college, so I'm just giving that to you as free information. You didn't pay for that. I want to talk about finance. Let me take my watch off. You know what it means when a Baptist pastor gets ready to start a sermon? What it means when he takes his watch off and sits right here? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay, but I'm going to try to make it worth something. I'll keep my eye on the time because Mr. Will and I both discussed earlier that we'd like to have some time for questions at the end. So some of these slides, will they get these slides also?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, since you're going to receive these slides by email, I probably won't take a lot of time on certain slides, but then other slides I want to discuss in a little bit of depth. And I really think if you see a slide that you have a question that might be general enough that everybody in the room might benefit from it, please feel free to do that. If you get kind of a personal situation you would like to talk to myself or the 2 ladies about, we'll be glad to talk with you later so you don't have to ask a personal question in front of the whole group. These are some of the ways that families use to help pay for higher education. This is what we say financial aid is. It's helping pay for college. So you have grants, scholarships, loans, and work study. And I'll mention each one, a little bit about each one of those. Grants and scholarships are the 2 best categories. These are funds that students do not pay back. It's not a loan, so they are what we call gift aid. Grants and scholarships are gift aid. Many of these scholarships are applied for, or these grants are applied for by the FAFSA application, and we'll talk about the FAFSA in just a few minutes. I was reading my script. I didn't know I was going to be doing this presentation until last night, and one of our staff members texted me and said he had dental work yesterday, and apparently they beat him up pretty bad in the dental chair, and he wasn't able to come. So I was reading over, I had a paper script, and I said, many are appalled by completing the FAFSA. I thought, that's not. Then I had to read a little closer. You apply. I read appalled on that. I thought, well, that's not very good to say in front of people. So it is, the FAFSA application is used for federal student aid. Quite a bit of the state aid in Indiana is also used for FAFSA application. Certain number of credit hours per year on some of the scholarships and grants. So just be sure when you're awarded various awards that you make sure you know what the stipulations to keep those awards are. These are what we call our need-based grants. These are strictly based on the FAFSA application and the results from the FAFSA application. So these particular grants here, you see, the eligibility is determined by the FAFSA application. When you submit that, it opens up October 1, so it opens up here very, very quickly. But these programs, the Pell Grant, Supplemental Grant, those are federal grants that are based on the FAFSA results. Some of the state grants, some of the state programs require FAFSA, may not be dependent upon the results of the FAFSA, but some of the programs actually require FAFSA just to make sure it's filed. Institutional grants, whatever college you might choose. If you choose a private college, it costs twice as much as a state school. Their financial aid package of their institutional aid may be much larger than a state school because you're paying a much higher tuition at a private college. Some are not, some are. Teacher grants, there's a couple of different programs for teachers. So be sure if you're thinking about going into the teaching profession, there are various programs, majors that you can pursue where you can get cancellation of, it's a grant unless you don't teach, then it becomes a loan. So it's a good program if you're quite sure you're going to teach, or it turns into a Stafford loan, which I'll mention in just a few minutes. Finding scholarships, you just see lots of different ways that you can look for scholarships. I'm not going to really go through those, but there's all kinds of avenues that you see there where you can pursue scholarships. And I've got kind of an off one down there on the nursing. A lot of hospitals have nursing programs across the state where you can get tuition paid while you're attending, and then teach, or then you actually serve as a nurse in that particular hospital facility. So different programs like that that you can look into. We do talk about student loans. We do not twist anybody's arm to get a student loan. Any students thinking about Ivy Tech, their cost may be low enough. You would not need a student loan. If you're thinking about Notre Dame, you may need a student loan. Okay? Different costs are going to affect different families different ways. And that's what the FAFSA helps institutions to know. So there are student loans that are available. You see some right in the middle, the annual loan limits. 18-year-old, 19-year-olds right out of high school, going straight into college, have a pretty limited loan eligibility. The government doesn't let a first-time freshman borrow a lot of excessive loan funds. It grows a little bit each year. The interest rate is tolerable, 4.99%. Part of the student loans do not have interest. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. The loans do not have any payment on them while you're in school, and repayment starts 6 months after you complete your schooling. You drop below half-time, anything like that. Here's the slide I wanted. Subsidized versus unsubsidized, so we call them sub and unsub. You'll learn that lingo when you go to college if you need student loans. So the subsidized, there is no interest on that loan while the student's in school, and 6 months after the student completes school or discontinues school. So that's a need-based loan. That is based on the FAFSA results. The unsubsidized loan is not a need-based program. It's the same interest as the subsidized, but that particular program, the interest does start while the student is still in school. Okay, let me just kind of sidetrack for just a moment. President Biden has stopped, President Trump and then President Biden both has stopped payments on student loans. So parents, if you have older sons or daughters and that have student loans currently or have had student loans, those have been in not in repayment for a couple of 2.5 years. That's going to extend through December 31st. The bigger news about student loans and parent loans both are what President Biden, White House staff has done is the loan forgiveness that should probably kick in. There are some legislators in D.C. that are trying to stop that loan forgiveness program. I don't want to get into politics. I don't know that their group is strong enough to overturn what the president has done here. So parents, if you have parent loans or student loans yourself, you may be affected by this also. If you can get either the $10,000 of forgiveness or up to $20,000 forgiveness. So be sure and watch the national news as it continues. Again, if I were here to speculate, I think the loan forgiveness is going to go through. I just don't think there's going to be enough pushback from the amount of senators and Congress people that wanted to stop that from happening. Parent loans are also available. We'll send you that information. There's parent loan programs, and then there are private loan programs also. The parent loan program is for the parent that has a student in college as an undergraduate student. Once the student is a graduate student, the parent loan would actually switch to the graduate student. So this is a program. It's not need-based. The family cannot not be eligible for the program unless the student has excess financial aid that already pays for everything. That's a program out there. It's not a great loan. The interest rate is 7.54. There is an origination fee of about 4% on it also. So a home equity loan might actually be better than something like this. A private loan, if you're in part of a credit union or the big banks across the country will do private loans. The credit union based out of Fort Wayne. Three Rivers, thank you. Whoever said that. They participate in these programs. Again, interesting information, not interesting, useful information there that you have as you walk the journey. Student work programs is one of the programs that I'm most proud of and recommend this program. We don't talk about Ball State on an event like this because we're talking about all the colleges in the state or whatever college you might be going to. But we highly recommend at Ball State. Do you know where our first year students who bring a car, do you know where they park? Do I know where they park? Scream it out. At the football stadium, yes indeed. So when I'm meeting with students and families during new student orientation, I talk a lot about one of the work programs on campus. There's a federal work study program that is a need-based program, and then there's just what we call institutional student employment. Most every college in the country has both programs. I can't guarantee everyone does, but most colleges have both programs. Again, the need-based is the federal program. That's part of the financial aid package. And then just institutional work program is based on a department on campus, maybe the biology department has two student workers. One is the federal work study program. One is institutional student employment, because the funding for those are different. The federal work study program, the government pays 75% of each dollar that the student makes. So they're very big programs. And I go back to, when I'm talking to the new students, if you want to park at the football stadium, so then you go to one of the bus stops on campus, you can wait up to 20 minutes maximum. The buses hit every spot every 20 minutes. So you can wait up to 20 minutes, get on the bus, take a ride to the football stadium, get in your car, drive to someplace in town that you can make probably a better wage than what you could at Ball State. Drive back to the football stadium, wait up to 20 minutes maximum to get back on the bus and come back to main campus. So we really recommend the work programs on campus. Plus, it's a great way to connect with maybe a staff member, a faculty member, students that live on campus, work in the residence halls at the desk. They don't even have to put their shoes on to leave to go someplace to work. So lots of opportunities in the work study program, either one of the work programs. A lot of text here, I realize that, but be sure and look through that, especially the students, if you're a 21st century scholar, or if you receive the O'Bannon money, those have stipulations on them, and you'll see that those are stricter than the federal programs. The federal programs, Pell Grant, Supplemental Grant, Federal Work Study, the student loans have stipulations, but there's a little more leeway in the federal programs than what there are in the state grant programs. So be sure and you can memorize it or anything, but be sure and know that you've got to follow those when you get into college. We particularly at Ball State, for the 21st century students, we have a group of staff members and graduate students that are assigned just to the 21st century. It's full tuition at a private at the state schools. It's full tuition, so that is at Ball State. That's right at about $10,500 a year. So that is not money that we don't want students to lose those money. Generally, the parents don't want students to lose that money either out of their awards. Military funding is available depending on if the parent is a veteran and what benefits they might be able to pass on to the student if those benefits haven't expired or haven't been used up. The state of Indiana has a unique program. Do not see it on there. Maybe on another slide. I'll come back to that. If I don't see it. I don't see it. State of Indiana, a child of disabled veteran. If a veteran parent is even just partially disabled, you certainly want to look into this program. It is, again, it's a state of Tennessee program that comes out of the Commission of Higher Education. We'll be glad to help you with that. We have information on our website. It is FAFSA driven, but there's not any eligibility. The eligibility is if the veteran is approved for that percentage of a disability, then the student can take up to 124 credit hours in their undergraduate and graduate studies to pursue. Excuse me. Now we're talking about the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. Okay, and I'm just going to tell you a story. Bethany and I just had this story. I've been in financial aid for 35 years, and this is my newest story that I have. When you're students, when you do the free application for federal student aid, they're called the FAFSA. Use your full legal name. Okay, my name is Gregory Wayne Thornburg. On my admissions application, you know what I should use on my admissions application everywhere? Gregory Wayne Thornburg. Okay? All right. If your nickname is Bubba, I live in the South, so I can use Bubba, okay? Your name is not, my last name's Thornburg. My name is not Bubba A. Thornburg. You will mess up everything you can possibly mess up if you're using those preferred names on the admissions application and on the FAFSA application. Bethany and I worked with a student, a parent. Probably we're into 3 or 4 weeks. We're still trying to help that family. Student used his middle name, made up an initial for his middle name, and then used his correct last name. And then the FAFSA application uses his whole legal name, and you cannot get those things to combine unless somebody finally realizes what went wrong. So we finally realized what went wrong, got everything switched, and then the student didn't have a final high school transcript, and the family goes, yes. Final high school transcript was in another file also because of the wrong full name. So it is, like I said, I've been in this business 35 years, and I've never seen one messed up this bad. So free information, you didn't pay for that one either. Please don't make Bethany and Trinity, who'll be working with these nations, don't make them try to figure all that out. Be nice to them, do your names right, and they'll help you make sure everything just goes absolutely perfect. The Indiana deadline is April 15th. That's a hard deadline for the state programs. All right, so be sure and remember that. The FAFSA, like I said, the FAFSA opens. When's October 1? Is that Friday? Saturday. Yeah, FAFSA opens Saturday. Don't necessarily have to do it Saturday. Probably I wouldn't do it the first 2 or 3 days. Students applying to Harvard, Cambridge, Notre Dame, private schools, they may actually have an October 2nd deadline or October 3rd deadline, something like that. So, watch your universities, your colleges, what the deadline is. My favorite holiday of the year is Halloween. I am just an absolute Halloween geek. Is anybody a Hocus Pocus fan? Okay, Hocus Pocus comes out Friday. Hocus Pocus 2, not that I'm doing a commercial. Anyway, Halloween is one of my favorite holidays of the season. If you still trick or treat, if you load up on sugar candy on trick or treat night, go home that night when you got that sugar high, do your FAFSA that night. Okay? So Halloween is your kind of your benchmark as to when to do the FAFSA application. to make sure, generally you're not going to miss any deadlines, but again, watch those, the, the high, I should say the high price private colleges, they may have a very early deadline for the FAFSA. You can see the FAFSAs at studentaid.gov. Some schools do have deadlines on their institutional aid. We at Ball State, we use the same deadline as April 15th that the state of Indiana uses for their programs. Ours is more of a priority date instead of a deadline. The FAFSA, I don't want to get too, I wish I was out of time so I could just say we're not going to do this one. The FAFSA application determines your eligibility for federal student aid and a lot of the student aid. So it can, when you fill out the FAFSA application with the number of people in the household, number going to college, age of the oldest parent is an important question on the FAFSA because there is a resource allowance. So the higher the age of the parent, more of their resources, retirement fund, not retirement funds, but investment funds like that are protected. The older the parent, more is protected. The younger the parent, the less amount of those financial strength that they have is what the FAFSA is trying to calculate an expected family contribution. I'll be glad to, I won't be glad to chat with you afterwards. I will chat with you afterwards if you really want to go into some. Easiest thing is do the FAFSA application, get the results back. The FAFSA application does help determine who is a dependent. Students, if you're an 18-year-old, 17 now, 18, 19-year-old, you live with parents, you're a dependent student. Just no qualms about it, nothing to discuss. If a student, and you may, maybe nobody in the room, but you may have students that you know at school, parents, Mr. Will, students that are in danger of being homeless, you are homeless. There's some conditions for them on the FAFSA application. So just be sure, and again, most of the students, 18, 19-year-old students, they're going to be a dependent student until they turn 24 years old, or if they get married before 24 years old, they would be an independent student. Or when they turn to graduate, if you're a graduate student, you take 4 years at IU East, graduated in 4 years, you're 22, you go on to graduate school, then you're an independent student at age 22 because you're a graduate student. Easiest thing is student, the parent that you live with is who the FAFSA application is based upon. Students, if you live with two parents that they are your biological parents, if they're divorced and live together, or if they are separated and they live together and you live with them, you're still a dependent student, okay? And you're going to use both parents' information. It's a little fuzzy through here. Student, if your parents are divorced, do not live together, then you're going to use the information on your FAFSA of the parent that you live with. Okay? Parent that if you split time, you live with one parent for 55% of the year, the other parent 45% of the year, you're going to use the parent's information that you live with for 55% of the year. Okay? And then probably the one that seems hardest for step parents to understand is dad, if you, students living with you, you're divorced and you're remarried, then both you and your new spouse is both parents' information is going to go on the FAFSA application. Okay? Again, if you have questions about that, you're welcome to talk with us, email us, call us, or check with another college where you might be going to. There are some conditions, and this really blew up in the country during COVID, during 2020. We had a lot of families who lost income in 2020. And so we can look at their income and how it compares to what will be expected for 2022. So if, for next school year, all you seniors, the FAFSA application is going to be based on 2021 tax information. Moms and dads, guardians, keep in mind it's going to be on, it's called prior year. So you're going to college in 23, so you go back prior, so it's 21, okay? A lot of families just try to make it on the immediate year just past, and that is not correct. Okay, so it's going to be based on your 2021. Hopefully you've already done your 2021 tax return, so you've got what you need to be able to complete the FAFSA. If there is a loss of family income, if there's a death in the family, if there's a divorce in the family, talk to the college where the best people to talk to are the financial aid people in the college where you plan to attend. We at Ball State are glad to help you also. We'll give you Ball State information, which may be, in something like this, may be a smidgen different than another college or university. So, again, best information comes from where you think you're going to go. Again, as your local university, we're going to always be willing to help you also, even if the student's not coming to Ball State. You don't have to tell us they're not coming to Ball State, but if you do, we're still going to help you. IRA rollovers, there were a lot of rollovers in 2020 because of COVID-19, something like that happened in your family. Let the college know. Again, most of these are after the FAFSA is completed. This slide is after the FAFSA is completed. You've got to turn in the information from the 2021 tax return. If something in 2020, again, 2023 is what you're going to be looking at, not 2022, okay, for the next year. I think I'm going to make this the last slide. Different schools have different requirements. I'm kind of alluding to that. Institutional scholarships have different requirements. State programs have different requirements. So really watch, especially your institutional scholarships. There's a lot of difference between one college to another in the number of class hours you have to attend and complete each year. Our 21st century students, 21st century scholars, say you live here in Muncie, obviously, and you're going to go to Ball State. If you're going to live at home, institutional scholarships from Ball State could be reduced because if you're not living on campus. If you're living on campus, you can stack those scholarships to help 21st century would pay tuition and fees. A presidential scholarship, one of those scholarships will go toward room and board. If you're not living on campus, then the room and board, that presidential scholarship can help pay for a meal plan, but it can't be used to help pay for books or transportation or anything like that. So again, be sure and check with your institution. I don't want that to be a detriment about scholarships, but it is good to know what can stack and what cannot stack. Essentially, what Ball State funds, our state funds, so they cannot stack onto 21st century, because that's already state funds also. Taxpayers like us. No, they don't like us. They like for that to happen in the state of Indiana. They don't want students out of the state coffers, and whatever. Direct costs, let me just do that one. Direct costs are what you're going to actually see in a bill. This is way down the road. We'll explain this to you at orientation. So financial aid goes to help pay for the direct costs, tuition, fees, room, board, and required fees. These old eyes, y'all wait till you get my age. All right, sorry. There are direct costs. These are the ones that you actually pay to the university, college, wherever you go. That's what you're going to see in a bill. When you get, you keep looking for a bill next spring. The bills don't really, most colleges, those bills don't really get calculated until June, July, or August. So this is what the student actually pays to the college. Then indirect costs, which financial aid goes to help also, are at Ball State, indirect costs are books. Some institutions, you can, some colleges and universities, you can actually charge your books to your student account. Okay? Ball State does not work that way. Some other schools might work that way. Okay, so there's direct costs and indirect costs there that you want to kind of take a look at and pay attention to. And again, a lot of this we'll get to, whether you're at Ball State or somewhere else. We really pour on the information to you when you attend orientation. Okay? Questions?
I just have a couple more slides, and then I'm just going to open it back. Oh, whoops. I think I may have exited out of my slide prior. I just have a brief recap in regards to what grants and scholarships are versus loans versus the work to study. Again, just quick information for your reference. In regards to finding scholarships, I did want to bring attention. We do send out a monthly senior bulletin. You all should have received September, and then you'll receive October at the end of this week. For your students, if they are interested in accessing that, I turn it into a PDF and upload it to the senior canvas. I do list the relevant scholarships that are for the month. However, it is a slither of what is actually out there. So by utilizing online resources, I have listed here FastWeb. It's one of my favorites because you can create a profile for your student, and then anything that aligns with your demographics, interests, and involvement, you can kind of have scholarships basically personalized and emailed to you, at least applications.
Well, that one's been around a lot of years.
Absolutely.
That's the most reputable.
I use FastWeb myself as a student, and I just think it's a cool resource that's pretty convenient. Of course, local organizations and businesses, parents, if any of you work for local places, you might see if there's scholarship opportunities from your organization. I do have listed the Community Foundation. They usually have quite a few offerings here locally. And then always check in your individual colleges. I believe financial aid offices can always direct you to that as well. I do note this. Be aware, you shouldn't have to pay for a scholarship. You shouldn't have to pay for hardly anything in regards to the financial aid realm of that. So make sure that you are not falling victim to anything like that. I myself actually paid someone to help me file a FAFSA as a senior in high school, only until I got to my college financial aid office when they told me, I'm pretty sure they now have personal information. So keep that in mind. I didn't have anyone to help guide me through that. In regards to FAFSA, it was covered. You can access it by FAFSA.gov. It will reroute you to studentaid.gov. I just wanted to note that you can create an FSA ID actually tonight if you were interested, in which case it's kind of an electronic signature, so to say. It's just tying it to your identity. Parents, if you have a student, an older student who you've already done this through, you have an FSA ID, you just need to create one for your current senior. And then again, it does open on October 1st. I'm sure the website will have plenty of travel, so it might be slow to try to access. However, if you are go-getting it and trying to get that done early, having that FSA ID in place will just make it a little bit more smooth for you. I do have a link to a video that will be accessible to you all. It kind of explains it and walks through it in a little bit of detail as well. To finalize and review, I just have a couple few points. Talking with your family, I think most importantly, in which we're kind of talk through financial aid packages as they come in towards spring potentially. Start collecting the items that you may need for living away from home, right? If you have a birthday this year, for Christmas, you might ask for some of those things. So you might think about, what can I not live without? And then also be sure if you're living in campus that you can actually have those items, right? I think some people are like, oh, I need an air fryer. I don't know many dorms will let you have an air fryer in your dorm, so you might double check on things like that. The last thing here though, be aware of what makes you more likely to be successful once you're in college, right? I think all throughout high school it's kind of been a trial and error process for you. This is your last year here that, try something new. Maybe it'll be awesome for you, maybe it doesn't work out. But if you do end up falling a little flat, you are still here in your community where we're willing to support you and will push you up to success again. So I encourage you, try things now. Responsibility is a big thing to learn. And I think it's easier to learn here than whenever you're thrown into the chaos of your first year of college. So I would like to open it up to questions, either to myself, Mr. Thornburg, and his associates. If you'd rather it be a personalized question, by all means, I think we can stay around for a bit to hang out and answer those. But is there any general questions? Yes?
All right, I'm still confused about letters of recommendation and transcripts.
Okay.
So the transcripts, you enter your own results manually into the Common App, but then you still have to go over to Parchment and send it to the schools?
No, if you're using Common App, that's its own process in itself. I have access to Common App. Just make sure that your student has listed me as their counselor, and then I can go in on the counselor side and upload their official transcript. Now, it still will ask your student to upload and self-report their grades, but I don't know that colleges actually utilize that in terms of validity towards the end. However, I do think it's important that they still list because their transcript will not show what they're taking this year. And so I think it's still important to list that out in full so that way they have a snapshot of that. But on the Common App, again, just make sure that your student does list me as the counselor, that way I can access it. There are quite a few students who have already started that process and have listed me. If your student has started it and they have not, just have them come swing by the counseling center and talk with me, and I can show them how to do that.
Then they don't need to do the Parchment thing.
I would still encourage them to create their Parchment account because after Burris, I mean, sometimes I've had graduates from 1986, I've had graduates from the 60s actually reach out for their transcripts still. So once you are, out in the world, Parchment is the process that we would utilize for any of those. So I would still encourage it, and in the odd chance that there's a college not utilizing the Common App, that would be the formal process to order them.
Okay, now letters of recommendation, is there a way to put them into the Common App rather than having to give your teacher 10 addresses to send a letter to, or?
In the Common App, it should still be laid out to where you list you send the email, like you just list the email and it sends it directly to that teacher. If your student has questions about it or they can't figure it out or it's just confusing, I again would just encourage them to come down and see me and I'll be able to break it down in that sense. I'm not overly familiar with Common App, but when I'm working through it, if I can see it in front of me, it's quite easy to kind of navigate. Yes?
Just to respond to that, it's really nice as a teacher when the student will come to us personally and say, hey, can you give me a recommendation? And then Common App does send me a direct email and then give me the date that you put on that. So it's really nice that they let us know ahead of time, and then let someone know.
Yeah, I figured they would talk to you first.
Yeah, but then it does directly send it to me. They put in my name and email address. And, yeah.
Is it fairly easy for you to just take the same letter and copy it to 10 schools, not have to?
Yeah, like it only asks me for it once, and Common App takes care of the rest.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Common App is cool. Any seniors who don't know what Common App is, it's just kind of a service that allows you to kind of condense your applications, especially if you're going to have quite a few applications. I would highly recommend starting that process. It just kind of holds everything together and allows you to access multiple schools, and it'll send all the reports the same. It's also helpful on my end. If you have multiple apps open, there are several due dates. I think we've stressed that both from the financial aid aspect and even from an admissions aspect. And I think if you have the Common App, it also helps me monitor that for you, because if you are applying to 5 colleges and I only know that you're interested in going to IU, it's a lot harder for me to try to tell you the deadlines that may have passed. Again, Burris students reach far and wide sometimes, so if you are thinking about out of state especially, those are deadlines that usually go over my head, because unless our students let me know ahead of time, this is where I'd like to attend. Because I primarily receive quite a bit of information about Indiana, but definitely not about outside the state. So, any other question? Yes?
Pre-COVID, sometimes the school would organize college visit campus tours. It could have been part of a grant, actually. But are you anticipating doing any of that? I know they went to IU, they went to Purdue, I think they went to Butler.
Sure.
Anything like that?
Yeah. I would love to take groups of seniors out. I was not here whenever that was a part of kind of the process. I can certainly bring that up to Dr. Comer and see if we have funding for that. As of right now, there's no plans in place, but I love the idea. Just giving more access to students who may be parents if you are busy and don't have the time to get out and have those individual visits. More info to come. I mean, I can certainly talk about it with Dr. Cronin. Any other questions? Boston, are you able to see if there are questions from the live stream at all?
No.
Okay. Cool. The one viewer that we had. Yes. Yes. Sounds good. Any other questions? All right, in that case, I will be hanging out for a bit. Ms. Thornburg, if you are able to hang out, if you have individualized questions for either financial aid or in general, I'll be happy to talk with you. I appreciate you all coming out and giving me a little over an hour of your time. I know we're all busy, so I truly do appreciate it. If you have questions throughout this year, please reach out to me. I'm always here at the Counseling Center. Have your students come down by all means. I think it's important for seniors to meet with me. I will meet with you all upcoming to talk about the graduation pathways. If you have additional questions about that, I'm happy to talk to you about those requirements. But again, thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Mr. Dornberg. I appreciate you being here. I will be sending these slides out. I'll probably send them to you tomorrow morning. If you have any questions with them, please reach out, let me know. I'm happy to help along this process. And I believe, Mr. Thornburg, would you mind if I provided your email or anything?
We've got a general email.
Okay. Cool. Yep, I will send that out as well to you all, so I appreciate it. If you have questions, feel free to come up. Thank you.